Hey everybody, welcome to another Orange Grove 55 Q&A. So periodically what I'll do, if you guys want a question answered in a future Q&A video, what I usually do is I'll make a call to action, like a post in the community tab asking for your questions for Q&A. So you can leave your questions in any of those community tab posts. They usually come every few weeks. Or if you want, you can just drop it below in this video in the comment section. Any question you might have, Disney parks, Disney film related, and it'll either end up in a future Q&A video, or even sometimes if it's a really, really good question, I'll even dedicate an entire video to some questions. I've done that many times before. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, those are the best ways to get your question answered in a future Q&A. So without further ado, though, let's dig right in. And our first question comes from Mr. Paul McCormick. And Paul says, hey, I have two. Have you watched any of the Kurt Russell Medfield College Disney movies? I think they are still a lot of fun. Also, I've had this thing about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge going into Disneyland. I think it should have gone in DCA or even a future third park. What do you think? Okay, so Paul, thank you so much for these questions. Now, to answer your first one, have I seen the Kurt Russell Medfield College movies? Well, I've seen the computer that wears tennis shoes actually recently for the first time on Disney Plus, and I absolutely loved it. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to. I believe so, but that movie, The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes, I absolutely adored that movie. I thought it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. But I didn't know there were movies. I didn't know there were more of those. I'm not familiar with them, but leave in the comment below the other movies, because I'll definitely check them out. I've only seen the Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes, though. Now, in terms of Galaxy's Edge, you mentioned you don't think that it fits into Disneyland. It should be either put into California Adventure or a third park. Paul, man, I love you, dude. I love you, man. But I actually disagree with you on this. Okay, so I've heard, and you're not alone. A lot of people have said this before in terms of Galaxy's Edge. It doesn't belong in Disneyland. I'm going to give you the reasons why I think it's a perfect fit. Not just a good fit, a perfect fit for Disneyland. Star Wars is one of those unique franchises, right? Where it takes a lot of different things and puts them into one big pot and stirs them up. So Star Wars, it's a Western. You have the cowboy, with Han Solo. It has that very Western gunslinger kind of vibe. But then it also has that fairy tale element to it, that fairy tale vibe with the princesses, Princess Leia and the Queen Amidala, and all the the very magical sort of fairy tale-esque part of Star Wars that we all love. That's a part of it. So it's part Western, part fairy tale. It pushes new frontiers. It's constantly about exploring new planets and discovering new places. There's a lot of politics inserted into Star Wars, which I'll get to that in a minute. But all these elements, the Western, the fairy tale, the politics, the new frontiers, and even the technology. I know technically Star Wars takes place long time ago, but the technology is beyond what we have as human beings. So for me, it's still the future, right? In terms of technology. So all these things combined is like really the perfect, it's almost like a love letter to Disneyland. It's everything Disneyland represents. Everything. The fairy tale, the Western, new frontiers, new technology, even politics. Disneyland was built on the hard facts, as Walt Disney said, of America. And, we have Abraham Lincoln on Main Street. I know Star Wars doesn't have Abraham Lincoln. I know Lincoln is not canon. But my overall point is that politics and political history is part of Disneyland, and Star Wars chocked full of politics. So there's all these different elements within this one franchise. It's a very, very, Star Wars is a very, very unique franchise. And it takes all these things and puts them into one thing. And I think for that, I think it's really the perfect fit for Disneyland. It's every land, every aspect of the park all rolled into one. And it's really the only franchise that can get away with that. Now, Paul, I do agree with you. I wouldn't want to see like, multiple lands based on single IPs, single franchises. I don't want to see a Toy Story land and, and a Monsters Inc. land. I don't want to see all that come into Disneyland, but I think Star Wars is a unique case, and I think it fits very, very well. Now, you did mention a third park. Now, that would have been great. I would have supported that as well. I think you could have actually made a great park, maybe like a Heroes and Legends park or something along those lines, where you had, a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in that park, where you had an area with Marvel. You can even put in Pandora and, older IP like Hercules and things like that. So I agree with you. I wouldn't have minded seeing Galaxy's Edge put into a third park. I think that would have fit very well. I think Marvel would have fit very well too in a third park. But in terms of the two existing parks that we have right now, which is Disneyland and California Adventure, I think they picked the right park. California Adventure, the reason why I don't support Galaxy's Edge and California Adventure is because in order for Galaxy's Edge to actually work in DCA, it has to be part of Hollywoodland. But the problem is that Galaxy's Edge would be like double or triple the size of Hollywoodland. So it would never really feel like part of that land. Galaxy's Edge would always feel like its own thing. And as its own thing, it doesn't match the California theme. So it just doesn't work for me. But I do agree with you about the third park. I think it definitely could have worked. But sorry, Paul, man, I disagree with you about Disneyland. I think Star Wars is a love letter to Disneyland. It's everything that park was built on in one franchise. I think it fits beautifully. And I love the way that it's nestled in right behind the Rivers of America with all the trees. They did a really phenomenal job. So, but thank you, Paul. I really do appreciate the questions, man. Thank you so, so much. And the next question comes from my buddy Oakview Films. And Oakview is asking, you said in previous videos you're not a fan of the live action Disney remakes, save for Aladdin and Jungle Book. If you were in charge of the film division at Walt Disney Pictures, how would you personally improve these films? The one condition is that these films have to get made. You can't cancel them in accordance with Bob Iger / Chapek wants. Okay, so Oakview, this is a fantastic question. And you're right. I absolutely loved Aladdin. I thought Aladdin was a fantastic movie. And I wasn't really even that excited for Aladdin. To be honest with you, I didn't think it really looked that good in the trailers. After watching it, though, it was phenomenal. It almost felt like a Jasmine standalone film, which I was completely fine with because I think Naomi Scott hit a freaking home run as Jasmine. But I don't want to digress too far, but I loved Aladdin. I also love Cinderella, to be honest with you. And I also, like you said, love Jungle Book. Now, what would I do to improve these films? Here's the problem with recreating these films. Lion King, I did not like the live action version. And Beauty and the Beast, I did not like the live action version. Now, with Lion King, the problem with Lion King was that it went too realistic. They were touting it as a live action Lion King, which was great, and they went ultra realistic with the characters. But Lion King is a very emotional movie. And when you make the lions and the animals look ultra realistic, you're kind of painting yourself in a corner in that you can't really have the really emotional, expressive faces you can do with a more stylized look. And that's the problem. Lion King from 1994, the animated version, was a cartoon, an animated film, so you could have the big eyes and the big emotion, right? And it played huge into that movie. I mean, Lion King was one of the most emotional movies Disney Animation has done in decades. I mean, it was really a new generation's version of Bambi almost, right? But it was because of the expressive faces, the emotion, right? The live action version was unable to do that. It was unable to do that because the lines were too real. They couldn't smile, they couldn't frown, they couldn't do anything. So it was like having taxidermy animals walking around. There was no emotion at all. And you took a movie that was one of the studio's most emotional films, and you turned it into the soulless, like emotionless movies. It was kind of upsetting. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of Jon Favreau, but he dropped the ball. That was the one movie that he made that I didn't really love, sadly. Everyone has a bad day at the office, so I still love Jon Favreau, but that movie didn't do it for me. But now, what would I do if I was running Walt Disney Pictures? Well, what I would do, and I know this kind of runs counter to the company kind of agenda, so to speak, but I would take movies that didn't do well in the box office and remake those. Okay. Now, I know Disney wants to really make money and capitalize off of, the nostalgia. So that kind of runs counter to what the company wants. But hear me out. Excuse me. If you took a movie like, say, for example, Treasure Planet, bombed at the box office, okay, did horrible at the box office, but as the years have gone on, it's kind of grown like a following. I mean, people have kind of discovered Treasure Planet and have fallen in love with it, right? If you were to make a live action Treasure Planet, there's so much you can do nowadays with the CGI technology and what have you to make a phenomenal movie. If a live action Treasure Planet did very well, it would change the narrative for the original animated movie. It would take the stink off a little bit, so to speak, because you would have a successful franchise in live action, and it would sort of remove the stench of like this animated flop. It would give these animated movies that didn't do well kind of a second life, so to speak, right? I think that's the way to go. That's what you do. You take the movies that have potential that flopped in the past and you remake them in live action. Treasure Planet would be my first choice. I think it would be an absolutely gorgeous live action film. You can do so much. It could basically be the live action Pirates of the Caribbean movies in outer space. How epic would that be? I mean, you could make a full franchise out of it. You can even make sequels if you wanted to. Okay, it would be breathtaking. Another film that I would want to remake into live action would be The Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron, again, was one of those movies that I actually really enjoyed. I did, but it has stench on it. It stinks because of it reeks of like, well, it was Disney's biggest flop, right? And it's going to always kind of carry that optics, unfortunately. Well, if Disney were to remake that in live action and the live action movie were to do well, it gives that whole franchise, even the animated version, a second life. So that's what I would do. I would remake Black Cauldron in live action. I would remake Treasure Planet in live action. Maybe even do like an Atlantis live action. These are the movies that you can remake that would be welcome and that you can do that can actually surpass the original. When you try to remake movies that are legendary, epic, cinematic masterpieces like The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast, you're always going to fall short. You can't follow those movies up. They're flawless movies. The shoes are too big to fill. Now, I know why Disney does it, because they want to play on your emotions. They want to play on your nostalgia. I get that. But you know what? In my opinion, creatively, it doesn't work. Do the movies that have like a cult following, like Treasure Planet, that flopped originally. Make those in live action. Give those franchises a second chance at life. I think that's the way to go. Thank you, Oakview. I do appreciate your question. And the next question comes from Mara Parker. And Mara is asking, speaking of orange groves, do you have any idea why Disneyland got rid of the sun-kissed citrus house? I loved getting fresh squeezed orange juice there when I was little. I miss it. I wish Disney would bring it back. Mara, thank you so much for this question. I actually do not know why Disney got rid of the sun-kissed citrus house. I will say this, though. I think Disney needs to get back into that kind of thing. I really miss like land centric offerings. And what I mean by that is like the Citrus House was on Main Street and it felt like a turn of the century offering. It seems like you could go onto a turn of the century town, village, street, whatever, and there would be a place where you can get fresh squeezed orange juice. It fit the theme of Main Street perfectly. Frontierland used to do the same thing. You used to be able to go in Frontierland and buy like leather boots and cowboy hats and things like that. I want Disney to start getting into that. I wish they would start making themed exclusive merch for each land. Now they kind of dipped their toe a little bit recently into this with Galaxy's Edge. You know, they started to do that with Batuu, with like the themed like Coke cans and stuff that had like the Arabish Star Wars writing on it. Very cool. And I love that. And I have like 4 of them back here. I don't know if you can see them, but I love stuff like that. Do that. Do more of that, Disney. Do that in Frontierland. Do that in Fantasyland. Do that on Main Street. Do that all over the park. We need more land-specific, exclusive merchandise. Because right now, you go into Frontierland, it's all the same stuff that you can get in the Emporium on Main Street. You go to Frontierland, it's all Superior jerseys, and it's all the same stuff. Every store you go into, it's all the same generic Disney merch. I would love to see a day when they bring back that land exclusive merch. And like I said, they dipped their toe a little bit into it with Galaxy's Edge, but I hope they take it a little bit further. But thank you, Mars, so much for your question. And the next question comes from Owen Lensmeller. And Owen's asking, since we never got a review of it from you, what were your thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker? Okay, Owen. I never did a review of The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm a huge Star Wars person. I love Star Wars. It's a passion of mine. I really enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. And I also loved The Last Jedi, which is kind of weird now because fandom is so divided. Oh my gosh, you like both? But I did. I like both. I love The Last Jedi, and I really, really, really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was a cool movie. I really liked seeing Emperor Palpatine back. I thought that was kind of like, I didn't know that I needed him back until he came back, if that makes any sense. I think he really was the perfect way to kind of close out the story. I think that the movie was great. My only critiques of the movie were like in the first 20 minutes or so. That first 20 minutes went way too fast. It was almost hard to keep up. Okay. It was so fast. I would have liked JJ to slow down a little bit in that first 20 or 30 minutes. Give us a real explanation as to why Palpatine is back. And it really wouldn't have been that hard. He could have dived into like cloning. You even have that whole conversation with Palpatine and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith about how he was, how he learned to cheat death from his master, Darth Plagueis, and things like that. You can kind of touch upon that conversation, kind of harping back. You can have flashbacks. There are so many ways JJ could have explained Palpatine's return in the beginning of that film that I think would have been much more satisfying than just Poe Dameron saying, somehow Palpatine came back. That was a little disappointing to me. I wanted to see a little more meat in regards to the explanation. I didn't need every detail, but just a little bit of an explanation. Okay. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought the final battle with him and Rey was phenomenal, was epic. I loved all the Jedi voices, Anakin, Ahsoka. That was really cool. It was a really good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It closed out the series well, or the trilogy really well. So again, it's not a perfect movie, but again, I can go through the original movies. I can go through the prequels. I can go through any movie. Doesn't matter what the franchise is, and I can find flaws. You're going to always find a flaw. But overall, I sat in the theater. I had a good time. It was fun. I couldn't ask for anything more. Were there things I wish they would have done differently? Absolutely. Absolutely. But hey, you know what? That kind of goes with every movie. there's always going to be something that you would want changed. So, but overall, I give it good marks. I really enjoyed the Rise of Skywalker. Thank you so much, sir. I do appreciate the question. And the next question comes from Mr. Tony Adams. Tony's asking, okay, the impact on future construction for Disneyland parks because of COVID-19. All right, Tony. All right. This one, man, this one's a little bit on the negative side, but you know what? It has to be said. We have to be completely honest, okay? So, the impact on construction. Well, the good news, it's not going to impact Avengers Campus. Avengers Campus is way too far along for it to impact. We're fine there. We're going to get Avengers Campus. That's confirmed. Okay? That's going to happen. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I would also put in the confirmed we're going to get category because, number one, it's a clone. And when Disney builds these clones, they build them, it's cheaper to build two than it is to build one. So I would almost bet, and I don't have any insider knowledge, and if I'm wrong, comment below. I have no issue being wrong. But it's my guess that because it's a clone from Florida and because when Disney does two of these, it's cheaper, a lot of these show elements, maybe animatronics, physical props, physical sets, are probably already built and sitting in some warehouse waiting to be installed at Disneyland. It's kind of already paid for, so to speak. So I can't see them really canceling Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. I think that's going to happen. I really do. I think it's going to happen. Will it be delayed? Yeah, probably, because the construction workers were unable to work for months and months because of the pandemic. But I think we are going to get it. It might be a year later or so, but we're going to get it. Now, in terms of other stuff, because, on this channel, I've talked to you guys about, like a future Tomorrowland, how they're heavily hinting a new Tomorrowland coming to Disneyland in the next few years. We can kiss all that goodbye. Okay. I mean, not permanently, obviously, but that in the short term. And when I say short term, I mean the next 3 to 5 years is not going to happen. Everything for the next 5 years or so is going to be back burner. Disney's going to be in survival mode basically for the next few years. So we'll get Avengers Campus. We'll get Runaway Railway. We're probably not going to see anything else though for a long time. We'll get, the typical stuff. Like maybe we'll get a new fireworks show. Maybe we'll get, some new event, stuff like that. But in terms of like big attraction announcements, not going to happen for a very long time. Not going to happen. The company is taking a big hit right now, you guys, with COVID. They're taking a big hit right now, and they're going to have to lick their wounds for a few years before we get anything major. But I think you can rest assured, though, that we'll at least get Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I think that's going to happen still. And for sure, Avengers Campus. There's no way they're going to cancel that. It's too far along. So those are my thoughts, Tony. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for the question. And that concludes this edition of Q&A with Orange Grove 55. And again, if you have a question for me that you want me to answer in a future Q&A video, comment below in this video, or you can go to my community tab and leave the comment in the community tab. Either way is fine. I kind of pick from both, but that's the best way to do it. And also, if your question is really, really good, like if I feel like your question deserves its own video, I'll make a video dedicated just to your question. I've done it many, many times. For those of you that are new to the channel, I've done it many times. So keep that in mind as well. But thank you guys so much. I just want to say, really, I appreciate all your support. Each and every one of you that likes my video, shares my video, spreads the word. I appreciate it like you do not believe. I really do appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, have a magical day. Bye-bye.